formulate a movie around it. And there's a scene in the movie where the love interest, Alex, is at work, and his girlfriend's best friend calls to test his fidelity and see if he will cheat on her. It's this whole scheme they're cooking up. And that actually happened. I was at work, and my boss picked up the phone, and the woman on the phone said, "You're really cute. I'd love to meet you outside of work. You were so sweet to me when I was in there." And he said, "Well, I appreciate it." He was the manager, so he had to be cordial. He offered for her to come in, and he'd buy her a drink, and he appreciated the business, but he had a girlfriend, and he couldn't move forward. Well, he hung up the phone, and about 2 minutes later, his girlfriend called and said, that was my friend, and I wanted to see if he'd cheat on me. So that's where Alice was born. In that moment, I knew that's what my story was going to be about. So I set out to write it.
You yanked that straight out of reality.
I did. I witnessed that pretty much firsthand. Except the boyfriend goes to fuck with them in the movie, whereas he did not in real life. So craziness ensues after that.
It's just one of those, I guess this is one of those situations where art is imitating life.
Yes, that's very accurate.
Let's talk briefly about your cast. Were these all people that you knew, or did you go through a casting process, or?
Well, like I said, I was in school, so I didn't have money for actors. And if you go to my MySpace name is Alice Film. There's a movie on there called Motherhood. I wrote it my second year in college, and it was a school production. And I was in a screenwriting class with this actress, Nitsan Magar. And I asked her to play the character, and she just absolutely floored me. So fast forward to a year and a half later, I wrote this movie for the star of Nobody Loves Alice, Nitsan Magar. And the boyfriend, Alex, is an actor named Philip Ward. I was a cinematographer on a project that he was an actor on, and I just kept in touch with him and said, I liked working with you. Would you be interested in working in this movie? So I wrote the part for him also. Now, after that, he brought me a lot of the cast from a local acting college called Elon University. Amanda Taylor came from there, Lise Rodriguez, a lot of our fill-in people. John Rushton was the psychiatrist that talks to little Alice, and he brought me a couple people also. So it was really just a local community effort.
What kind of filming schedule did you have? I know a lot of indie films run these long, because they're independent, it takes them over a year. Sometimes they manage to bang it out in a weekend. What was yours like?
I shot this in 12 days over winter break. And we never went over 12 hours except for the last day, which we went 18 hours on because my fight choreographer ditched me at the last minute, and the director of photography, Dave Martin, and I had to figure out how to choreograph the fight to make it look good on camera, which that's the final climax of the film.
Yeah.
12 days over winter break, and paid for entirely with credit cards and student loans.
And that was one of the next things I was going to bring up is, what were some of the challenges you ran into as an film director?
The production went really smooth, given the limitations we had to work with. My DP actually moved out of his apartment so we could make it into Alice's apartment for filming. He moved back in with his parents for Christmas break. The weather, it was very cold. My actress, a big chunk of my budget went to flying Nitsan in twice because of her schedule. She couldn't take off from work, so I had to shoot around her. I think that was really our biggest hurdle. I'm very surprised looking back at how easily the production came off.
I'm looking here at the IMDb page for Nobody Loves Alice, and you've got, I would say, more positive comments, the negative. How has fan appreciation been for the film thus far?
The fans have come out of the woodwork. I'm very surprised to see who my fans are. 19 to 25-year-old kids absolutely hate this movie because it's not blood and gore and guts and tits and ass the whole thing, you know. It's a character piece where we deal with the characters and then the violence happens to them. It's not about the violence, it's about the characters. So given the subject matter, apparently I hit a nerve with women, 35 to 50-year-old women that are either divorced or never been married absolutely flip over this film. They have been my biggest supporters, actually. So, and again, I think that comes from not having a lot of really quality characters in horror film for women. A lot of women have come to me and said, I want to work with you. So that's been really nice to see that kind of support.
Well, I think the 18 to, I'll go as far as 28-year-old horror fans, and I call some of them horror fans loosely, because a lot of them are in that, what I'm beginning to call the remake genre, where they don't have a good handle for what has made good horror. They're used to the formulaic 7 kids go into the woods, guy with mask shows up, and everybody dies. Or what I also refer to as the torture porn set. By and large, those are the people who have watched all of the Saw movies and consider themselves somehow experts on horror. Can't appreciate a film like Nobody Loves Alice because they're not, I don't want to say used to, they're not open to what horror, the roots of horror, if you will.
Yes. I mean, take a movie like Psycho. You know, it's one of the greatest horror films ever made, and I think the first and only kill comes 30, 40 minutes into the film. You know, and it's terrifying. It's an excellent. The movie wouldn't go over very well if it was made for today's audiences, unfortunately.
I feel largely the same way about the original The Hills Have Eyes.
Absolutely. There's a lot of that stuff. You know, The Last House on the Left is the reason I make movies. I saw that movie and said, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I don't know if I should tell people that, but the movie affected me. It made making movies a reality for me. It was something I could accomplish. And it was something that has always fascinated me is the fractured human being. Why did Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold go in and, you know, execute all their classmates? I didn't have friends in high school. I played those same games. I listened to Marilyn Manson, but I would never do something like that. So the fractured human being has always been a hot topic for me. Even as a child, the only books I read were Jeffrey Dahmer's bio and Albert Fish's bio. I loved serial killers, which I think terrified my mom, but it just fascinated me.